All right, so what we did here, it's Saturday morning, new day. Last evening, the last thing we did was put the axle tube seals in. This morning, we're starting with the original shims that were on the carrier. So we just put those in, and we just want to have a reference and get an idea where we are. So Mike's setting up the dial indicator. And we'll try to get these gears set.
Because it's a high pinion.
High pinion in the front, reverse cut. So now the curves are going down. So
Everything's still rotating the same way, but in order to keep the drive side on the drive part of the gear, they change the cut of the gear. That's why the spiral is reversed on this compared to the rear.
Okay. So you'll notice that the dial indicator now is coming down this way from the top on the back side of the gear.
And we don't have quite enough backlash.
So it's
kind of 3/1000 maybe.
Correct, 3/1000. Wow, close, good call. 3/1000, and we wanted. I think
We'll check it in a couple places.
Yeah, I think in the.
So 3's a little tight. We want really like 4 to 8, somewhere in there. Well, here we're 5. We're gonna pop this out again. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint it, run the pad. Hold the sensor. I like to check it, and
You want to paint it?
Yeah, I'd like to paint it. Let's see what the pattern looks like, and then we can make a shim change from there. Actually, that's really good right there. So look at that. Just an interesting thing on how you get different backlash amounts on different teeth. So right there, we're at like 5.
5. $5,000 to $8,000 ring gear backlash. We just hit 5. We're gonna see. We want to get an idea. Just painted the gears. Michael put a rag on this, put a little resistance on it. I'll turn the pinion, and we'll inspect this and see how it's doing. So once again, looking at these gears, looking at the pattern, Mike's really pleased with them. So our backlash is 5 to 8,000 is the tolerance. We are at 5, and that's this movement right here. Okay, he likes the way it's hitting the crown of the tooth. He's happy with the pattern. So this actually may be it right here. Okay, so we are staying with the shims that we have. We like it. So now we took the pinion out. Now we're prepping it for the finish install. You can see the original shim right there.
Shim's on.
Yeah, so there's your inner bearing.
So we're gonna press that on, and then here's the order of the outer. It'll be that way.
Yeah.
So I already screwed it up.
Crush sleeve, bearing.
Outer bearing, oil slinger, which doesn't look like it does much, but it does, I guess.
Yeah.
So they say. And then, let's see. The seal would be in there with the nut on. The yoke,
and then the nut. So that's what
how it's all gonna go
that's
together.
what you're looking at when it's going through the housing. So right now we're going to go to the press and actually press the inner bearing onto the pinion. These are the new bearings.
Off this one for the front. Make sure.
So once again, we're using a race, or excuse me, the inside of a bearing here, just to make sure that there's no harm to the new bearing.
Just one that fits inside. It's basically the same as the inner race, so it's not pressing on the cage.
So now we just reverse it, and just like we did with the rear, shim is in there. You never want to forget that. That would be very problematic. And we're going to press that pinion right down.
Pressure start to go up on the pump on the gauge.
Hit 2,000.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Good. That's it. You're there.
Okay.
That CDI ignition thing on the frame, because they're already kind of shot.
A little bit of oil in the bearings.
Cut the wire.
Because it doesn't fit through the hole that it has to go out.
Okay, just a quick look. You can see the race. So here's the outer bearing. This will go in there like so. The slinger's right there. Then we'll be putting the seal in. Just looking to see if we have a driver that would fit the seal perfectly. If not, we'll use the hammer like we did for the rear axle housing. Okay, so we just put the flange in and the nut kind of took up the play on it. So now we're setting up the tool to actually hold the pinion so we can start torquing that.
I would lose the extension.
Okay, once again, we have the dial indicator for inch-pounds of rotational force, but we're looking for like 20, 25 pounds. So obviously we're tightening that pinion nut, and it comes in contact with the crush sleeve, and then it'll start compressing the crush sleeve. So we just check it a lot. We do have an extra one, but we try to get it on the first shot. Look at that needle. That's at like 25.
Right on the, yeah.
25 inch-pounds of rotational force. That was the number we were shooting for, so outstanding. All right, you don't want to forget your locker indicator switch. So you can see I put a little blue RTV on that. I just started the threads and I'm going to start working that in. Okay, you can see that the pinion is installed. I just installed the plunger switch. You'll notice the matchstick is underneath it, holding the plunger switch out. The fishing line is laying in the housing. So we'll be putting in this carrier here very soon.
This is the inner cage of the bearing sticks up above the outside of the race. Just so
a
much.
hair.
So when we were trying to get the shim in,
The shim was
It's
hitting the
hitting the
top of the
cage.
cage. Good point.
right? So it would have had to bump up and
Yeah.
over and then drop back down in.
Yep, that makes sense.
That's unusual. Usually the races are a little bit taller so that it's flat all the way
Makes it a little-
across.
yeah.
Just a difference I just noticed that I don't recall ever running into on these before. Yeah, I'm getting it right now.
Okay, the front locker is in. We're just gonna put 12 volts on the locker. Just watch it engage. We did the same trick with the fishing line. The plunger switch is seated back there. Seems okay. These are torqued. The bearing caps are torqued to 85 foot-pounds, just like the front. So now we're gonna get the power supply going and test this locker out. Okay, I'm in one. Power supply's on.
Now
How's that, Mike? So your dad's spinning it. It's open right now,
Yep,
correct?
open diff.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay, it's locked.
Yep.
There we go.
Everything's turning.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Terrific, guys. Good job.
There you go.
So power supply off?
Yep.
Okay, I just don't want to. All right, once again, carrier in, locker's been tested, it worked beautifully. All I've done is taken the wire up through. For the hell of it, we're gonna call the local Jeep dealer and see if they have another plug. If not, I'm gonna install this one back in. But you can see that piece that breaks off. This is just so common. But what's interesting is I had an aftermarket one that was perfect. And Mike and I put a continuity tester on it to ring it out, and sure as shit, no power would flow from one side to another. So that thing's going in the trash. But just to give you an idea, that was an aftermarket one. This is a Mopar one. So if a dealer doesn't have it, I'm gonna plug that in. It goes in just like that, and I'm just gonna look to hear a click and see how it is. I could put a little bit of dielectric grease on it or some silicone, but we'll see. We'll see. The good news is, even if I had to change this one at a later date, this one's easier to access because of its location above the truss. So this is the new side. The passenger side has been replaced. All the grease got worked in there good. We greased the tube seals. We tested the locker. This is in the go position based on whether I put a new plug or use the one that I have. And then the driver's side is in as well. And this has been greased too. Okay, you can see the plug. The plug is installed right there, and it holds in good. So I'm going with it. I put a little dielectric grease around that O-ring, and we're going to place that into the axle housing. Okay, you can see the covers going on, knuckles are going on. I'm gonna look up the torque spec from the American Iron off-road deletes, or ball joint deletes. But it's big getting these gears done, man. We're pretty stoked. This was a big milestone here, and not bad time really. Basically because the fronts just went better, went a little easier, I think, at the end of the day. Okay, so the unit bearings are in. The unit bearing bolts, torqued to 75 foot-pounds. We got 40 foot-pounds on the nylon nuts for the ball joint deletes per American Iron. We're going to be putting these axle shaft nuts on, 36 millimeter nut. We're going to gun those down. Diff covers on. Plug is in the go position. Brand new unit bearing right here, which is nice because it came with a new speed sensor. But obviously my speed sensors are up here, and they plug in behind the shock tower, so they're a real pain in the ass. So we'll just bring my existing good speed sensor in here, and I'll have a spare. So Mike noticed that one of my unit bearings just didn't feel too good, so we got a new unit bearing, which makes sense because I had changed about 6-8 months ago. I had changed the passenger side, and that was still fine. So I think it's real good that we're changing the driver's side. That's a good catch and a good upgrade. Meanwhile, Colin's back here. We're going to be pumping in some oil in the rear diff. The rear diff takes 2 quarts, 11 ounces. I've found, though, that once you open up this fill plug right here and she starts oozing out, you're fine. And then we'll fill up the front as well. That takes 1 quart, 11 ounces. Yeah, it always bolts together kind of nice. It's nice to have the gears done. And then we'll have to, you have to use my flash cal and lower this down at some point and tell the computer that I'm running 513 gears. Make that computer adjustment. So it's going pretty well. Okay, so we're pumping some 80-90 oil right into the rear diff. Filler cap is out. And that's the full mark right here. And as I said, obviously the rear holds 2 quarts and 11 ounces. Why, do you ask? Because the oil flows down each axle tube, and then the seals are at the end. Okay, the front's all set, so the rear's all set, so we're doing the front right now. We'll get the oil in that. Then maybe we're gonna start breaking some brake lines apart. That's something that inevitably has to be done. But I think the main thing we're gonna try to do this afternoon when Cooter gets back is we're gonna drop the gas tank. Never had my gas tank down. Mike's had JK gas tanks out a few times. So we'll be taking that piece of armor off and lowering it. Why? Because we want to have full access to that passenger side lower control arm bracket. So this will be pretty interesting to take this gas tank down. So we want to get all in here and get this all out. So that's kind of like a big hindrance for us. So best to just do it right. These obviously you can get pretty good. We did not drop Wild Bill's because Bill just cut off the back side, and he had new control arm brackets because he was completely changing his suspension. So, but in my case, it'll be best to just remove it completely. Okay, we're just hooking up a couple other things. Colin's putting the drag link on. This is the Steer Smarts drag link. 67 foot-pounds here on the for the drag link that goes under the knuckle. Might have to, let's see, that should straighten out because I think it needs to be kind of flat, but we'll see. Same thing, we're going to be doing the tie rod. We're going to put that in. It's a 21 millimeter socket on the nuts, and both knuckles get torqued to 67 foot-pounds. Obviously, after the lift, this is going to be off because we're lifting the vehicle and we'll be adjusting the adjuster sleeve. But for now, we're just trying to get some more things done. Then I think we're going to start maybe taking apart some of the brake lines. Good. That is sweet. Go ahead and hit the, might as well hit the other end there up on the pitman arm too. Got a nice battery grease gun. That thing is sweet.
I want to blow the boot out, so we'll just go.
Not going in or what?
No, it filled it up.
Okay. All right. Okay, you can see that when you mount these, you want them nice and level right here, the boots. So,
Just gonna turn it.
yep. Yep, no problem. Just hitting this caliper. Let me know when you're maxed out right there. Okay. Once again, 67 foot-pounds.
I always forget that. I wasn't going that time.
You got the 60. You got it set on 67.
Yep.
Okay, good job. All right, now we're gonna have to turn it back this way. All right, you can see Colin, man. He is in it. So what we did is these things always get loose. Not so much the clamp here on the tie rod, but this bolt on the steering stabilizer. So rather than going anti-seize, I got some extra strength red Loctite on that.
Is there a torque spec for these? Or?
Not that I know. So just get on it pretty good so you can press in that boot. That's good. All right, and then obviously same thing right here, and then this actually is a relatively new steering stabilizer, but it takes such a beating with the rocks. You can see sometimes this is probably my third one. Sometimes these things get hit and they start leaking oil, but it's holding up. So tie rod, steering stabilizer. I think once that's done, I think Colin and I are going to seriously start looking at disassembling some brake lines.